pop in some Tellarite slop jazz and clean your snuggle tower for this week's
Initial thoughts. Initial thoughts. Initial thoughts.
Hey there, Best of Trekkers, it's Thursday again, and today we're talking Season 4, Episode 3 of Lower Decks, In the Cradle of Vexilon. Up front, I'm going to say I'm a little disappointed in this episode. It has an A, B, C, and D plot, and I'm only invested in about 1.5 of them. Let's work this episode backwards, because I feel like that's how the writers approached it. I have a morbid like for Boimler dying. Feels weird giving the death of a main character a like here, but it finally pays off a running joke about a black mountain and a great koala. In fact, I'm just going to give another like straight up for the great koala, and he speaks in koala. The room itself that he ends up in has overtones of Picard's death in the episode in Arcadia Ego. Shax had previously described the experience as something that took a lot out of him. And in this episode, Ransom jokes about how you'll always remember your first death. I bet Shax has climbed the Black Mountain a few times, and it gets harder each time. I hope at some point we come back to a harder trial here on the Black Mountain itself. The problem with this episode is, this is pretty much all it has going for it. The writers seem to have wanted to pay off the koala here so much, they forgot to write other engaging plots. I'm more engaged with the D plot of catching Billip's pet ferret Lancelot, which by the way gets a like, than anything else going on, including the C plot that leads Boimler to his demise. He doesn't let his team on his first away mission command. It's natural growth for the character, but I don't have any strong likes or dislikes. Why are the reactors Boimler and his team are working on similar to the Warp 5 NX-01 engine? In this plot, I do have a like for T'Lyn proving again how awesome she is, by telling Boimler what he needs to hear, as the odds keep stacking against them, and he insists on doing everything himself. It wouldn't surprise me if she ends up with a higher provisional rank than our main characters soon. As for the hazing B-plot to give the other 3 main characters something to do, I'm just gonna give it a dislike overall. Not only are they given the boring as can be task of scanning every isolinear chip by hand, including the second tier, but we have to watch them do it, even when they strike out on a revenge plot and Rutherford ends up in the Wadi game of Chula. It's rushed through and feels like poor cheap filler. Just because you can call back to DS9's worst episode doesn't necessarily mean you should. The best things we get out of the plot are 2 new in-universe music genres, Scuzz Blues and Tellarite Slop Jazz. Callback items in the anomaly room in this plot include the Nomad probe from TOS's The Changeling, a Vulcan Lurpa originally seen in Amok Time, a Batleth, a malfunctioning Betazoid treasure box from TNG's Haven, and the probe from the Inner Light, which I have a dislike for. Are there really more of these probes from the same alien civilization as from the Inner Light? Or, why are they holding on to the one from the Enterprise? Either question leads to a dislike. That leads us back to the traditional Star Trek A-plot, where I will give a like for visiting a Dyson ring more similar to the original imaginings of Freeman Dyson than the sphere we saw in TNG's Relics, and very similar to a much bigger version of a Halo ring. Aside from the location it takes place in, I have a general dislike for the A-plot. Carol trying to fix an ancient computer that controls the climate on this ring, only to be a joke that basically amounts to, have you tried to turn it off and then back on? Boot into safe mode to avoid the blue screen kind of tech support. Almost feels like a less xenophobic version of the Aldea computer from When the Bow Breaks. It just doesn't land for me as a plot, and it really doesn't work for the Corazonians as this colony of artists. Their world is literally hollow, and now because of Freeman, the sky has touched them. One of the only cool pieces to this is that the original creators of this ring abandoned it when they turned into fifth-dimensional energy beings, which is similar to how the prophets left Bajor to create their temple in the wormhole. I have a few more random bits to talk about. I've got a like for Ta'ana using whatever just worked a minute ago to bring Boimler back to life a second time. I mean, presumably she brings him back. We don't see him at the end, but his friends don't seem too concerned, so we're going to assume he'll be back with us again because of Ta'ana's special sauce. I like that it makes the self-aware joke poking fun at medical technobabble just working. It's also kind of a callback to TNG's Tapestry, as Bev didn't do anything to bring Picard back, it was all a higher power. Though I'm going to end this on a dislike, for not touching on the mysterious race that ended the Klingons and Romulans in the previous episodes. If this is just a season arc that's not going to pay off till the last episode, we don't need to touch on it every week. But where the plot here was so thin, it feels like they could have worked another minute of Pac-led lower deckers meeting their maker. I mean, the episode was so boring, it didn't even have a cold open. It definitely had time to further the season plot. In last week's video, I made the prediction that this mystery ship is actually from whatever species sent the probe in the one with the whales. I'm going to double down on that theory. I think they're setting up a Matt the Whale and Kamalu episode here. In Star Trek IV, before the probe reached Earth, it was reported that the Klingons had lost several ships to it, suggesting its origin is somewhere deep in the Beta Quadrant, and would have to get through Klingon and or Romulan space to get to the Federation, and they're the first to go here. Also, the Klingons and Romulans don't take whales into space with them, but the Cerritos does. I hope that's where this is going, but we'll find out soon enough. And I really hope there's a graphic novel or something about the hat that turned Billups into a church tower. If you've enjoyed the content, please consider a like and subscribe. Join the live chat with me and my buffer time friends this Friday night on this channel. Until next week, peace and long life.